Georgia's tight race for governor is getting national attention.
Brian Kemp is not only the Republican gubernatorial nominee, he's Georgia's Secretary of State.
Stacey Abrams looking to make history by becoming the nation's first female African-American governor.
Volunteers are picking up phones and knocking on doors across the state.
Come in and register to vote.
We are very excited to register as many people as we possibly can.
What do we want?
Register to vote!
When do we want it?
Today!
I come as one, but I stand as 10,000.
Pull back that veneer, and you see something really rotten happening. It's almost like termites coming in. They're in the wood, they're eating the wood away, and you don't even realize your house is getting ready to collapse until it's almost too late.
We have a historic decision today, striking down a key part of the Voting Rights Act, a civil rights law passed back in 1965.
The Supreme Court essentially said racism is over, and these communities don't need to pre-clear these changes anymore.
This decision leaves virtually unprotected minority voters in communities all over this country.
We are witnessing a tidal wave of voter suppression around the country.
If you look at Alabama,
Arkansas, North Carolina,
Ohio,
Kansas, North Dakota, Michigan,
Wisconsin,
and Georgia, which is becoming ground zero.
Right is right and wrong is wrong. When we make a mistake, take a misstep, we have to own it. This is the situation, and this is how we move forward.
We've got to understand, this isn't a Klan cross burning. This stuff is very bureaucratic, it's very mundane, it's very routine, but it is lethal.
For spacious skies, for amber waves of grain.
My name is Norman Broderick. I'm in Powder Springs, Georgia, Cobb County. I did 24 years in the military. Deployed to Iraq twice, Bosnia, Saudi Arabia. I voted absentee before when I was deployed. When I was in Iraq the first time, I voted absentee, and when I was in Iraq the second time, I voted absentee. The absentee ballot is a very important tool that exists to allow people, not only just the military, but anybody who happens to be away from their voting station, to be able to cast their vote. I work at a U.S. Army Central, which is located at Shaw Air Force Base in Sumter, South Carolina. I'm away from home during the week. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get back to Georgia to vote. I could only do this absentee. I filled out everything I was supposed to fill out. I sent their documents in. I got confirmation that it was received. And to my surprise, I did not receive my absentee ballot. When I contacted my wife and asked her about it, I think it was a couple of days before the election, it came here. And I tried contacting the Georgia Elections Board. I was told they did receive my absentee ballot request. Everything was filled out correctly, but that they mailed it to the wrong address. She admitted that yes, they did mess up, it was their fault. But there was nothing I could do about it. It's too late, it's over with, and my vote will not be counted during this election. It still pisses me off to this day.
It is eroding the confidence of the voter on both sides, Democrat and Republican. This is not a partisan issue. It's a voter issue.
Being in Baghdad, voting absentee was easier than being 4 hours away trying to vote absentee in South Carolina.
Voting is the bedrock of our democracy. When we have issues in that process, it's bad for both sides.
We have seen long lines across
Long
town.
lines still there, wow.
We have the will to listen, to seek to understand. I'm addressing this from the perspective of a Republican-controlled red state, that we be able to be compassionate when we address those concerns.
We've got the research that shows that African Americans and Latinos who live in African American and Hispanic neighborhoods wait the longest in line to vote.
Some were here for 3 hours. Here for 3 hours, others here for much longer.
4 or 5 hour wait.
5 hours.
It never died down.
This is way, way too long for us to stay and vote.
Whites who live in white neighborhoods wait the least amount of time in line to vote.
It was really good. The lines weren't too long and everyone was super helpful.
We don't hardly ever have to wait here. It's always a pleasant experience up here.
How that happens is resource allocation.
Make that resource unavailable to the people who you don't want to vote. And that's exactly what happened in the 2018 election here in the state of Georgia. In black neighborhoods, there were a quarter of the number of machines that were needed to service the population.
Everyone in the world knew we were going to vote today. All these dedicated people waiting to vote. This is what we call voter suppression.
I have to follow the courage of my convictions and disagree with my party. We can do better for Georgia.
This is systematic. If you look at what has happened across this country in the last 5 years, 40 states have passed some kind of law to make it more difficult for people to vote.
In Arkansas, the Supreme Court upheld a measure requiring voters to show photo ID.
North Carolina, where they targeted African Americans. In Alabama, the governor was shutting down DMVs.
Ohio.
Kansas, tens of thousands of people were prevented from voting.
Texas allows a concealed gun license to vote, but will not include college IDs.
Indiana, they purge 500,000 voters.
Wisconsin, where a recent photo ID law may have handed the 2016 election to Donald Trump.
We lost 41,000 voters. I think it changed the outcome of the election in the state of Wisconsin.
America.
We are not going to let them take from us what our grandparents and parents fought and suffered and died to give us in the first place.
We are here to resist an ID law that is undemocratic, unconstitutional, and immoral.
People are demanding democracy. In Washington, there's a new Native American Voting Rights Act. New Mexico now has same-day voter registration. Colorado, Nevada, Florida, and Arizona all passed laws restoring voting rights to those formerly incarcerated. Indiana blocked a law that would have allowed purging. New York, activism led to an expansive package of voting reforms. Michigan, a ballot initiative to end extreme partisan gerrymandering. And there's national legislation now to restore the Voting Rights Act.
These efforts are being fought in the streets. They are being fought in the city councils. They are being fought in the state legislators.
We belong together. We are all part of the fabric of this country, and we understand what's at stake.
Any voter suppression law is not just about black people, it is about America itself. When my mother's dying bed at 92 years old, former sharecropper, her last words were, "Do not let them take our votes away from us."
We have the power to change this. We are going to vote you out so that we really do have fair and free elections.